Hello, Beth. Welcome to this Friday, May 17th adventure of Design Challenge number 2. Are you ready?
Adam, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I wanted to start off with a voting exercise, more importantly, something called dot voting, which if you're not familiar with dot voting, Beth, it's one of those voting techniques that's been around a long time where you get multiple votes, sometimes called cumulative voting or multi-voting. The dots are generally pieces of paper, right? Stickers that you would allocate on certain things. It's great for corporate decision making, aligning around budget allocation, consensus building. We use it a lot at Mayana for taking ideas from one activity, moving them into then a prioritization. It's a little bit different from something you may be familiar with called exhaustive ballot, which is used for the World Cup. It's used to pick the city of the Olympics. It's where all the countries in the world get one vote. And then anything that didn't sort of have a majority falls off. And this goes on and on, could go 16 rounds, right? 8 rounds for the last World Cup. Also, the voting exercises that we call dot voting or even exhaustive ballot shouldn't be confused with Likert scales, which is sort of the, strongly agree, strongly disagree, super excited or super not excited. That's a little bit more of a quantitative way to look at data. Also, matrix rankings, right, where we're plotting not just the quantitative value, but we're visually laying it all out. So dot voting in a digital space looks a lot like what you see here. So this is how Miro does it on the left, Lucid Spark on the right-hand side of your screen. They essentially give each individual a set number of dots, and each individual has a color to represent those dots. And in real practice, of course, before digital technology took over, this was a fun exercise to do, right? Where you'd have lots of different stickers all over a board. And it's a little hard to make sense, right, on the left-hand side of what are the things that we should be doing, but certainly people still do that in real life today. From a Mayahana perspective, what we wanted to do is actually take you through 2 real-world examples, right, that could play this one out. One would be, let's think about what do we need from a business perspective to go on a CRM evaluation. The second one is that all-important exercise where you've got a pretty full belly and the dessert tray is coming along, and you have to decide, what am I going to pick with my friends? Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So this first one is our business requirements for a CRM. And if I start to think about, CRM, you might have marketing automation needs. You've certainly got your kind of integration requirements. Sales is going to have their requirements. You've got your contact and account management. You might even have other mobile requirements and other things. And it's oftentimes that, the business has to get together with IT, who's going to pick a CRM, and they have to prioritize what are the requirements that are the most important, right? And so how many dots do you think we should give to somebody picking on this one?
It's an interesting case. Normally you're giving like a third to a quarter of the number of dots as items.
Sure.
But if you're trying to end up with a lot of items that you're going to keep and you're just trying to see which ones are most important, you might do a little bit more in this case.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of academic research, as you said, like the right way to do it. But we've had clients that do it like this. This is 20 dots, by the way. They essentially said, I wanted to imagine everyone had $20 in their pocket and each dollar represented a dot, right? And so as you start to look across this sort of long list, it gets a little unwieldy, but each color represents a different person. And what's nice on this is you can sort of sort these things if you'd like to. And you'll notice that we've got a couple of things kind of floating to the top. And if we wanted to, we could sort of take it into a new type of activity. We might even do another activity to quantify, right, some of the things that came in here, Beth. But what do you think about 20 dots?
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to ask people to allocate. It's interesting because if you're just choosing things like, what do I like? It's fine to put a few stickies, but if you're thinking of it as actual money, like where do I want to invest? It's almost more like that net present value approach of what's
Sure.
going to really give me the biggest payoff. I like this because you can see the things that are going to end up being the must-haves. These are the deal breakers. If we're evaluating tech and they don't have these top 3 items, we're not even going to go any further. And then some of that next tranche of things that scored pretty highly would be important, and then kind of going down to the nice to haves, and that one on the bottom, maybe not that important, maybe just like a little bonus if all things are equal in other cases. What do you
Yeah,
see
and
as the kind of pros and cons of throwing 20 dots at people for something like this? More dots than items to vote on.
look, I think the pros are when we give people a limited number of dots, it's really hard for them to prioritize what do they want out, right? Because they want everything in, and all of these things might feel attractive. So by giving somebody only 5 dots, you're almost telling them that these things aren't important because they didn't have a dot to vote, but they still are important. right? They're just maybe not as important, right? And so maybe more of a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a stack ranking activity would be helpful here as well.
Nice.
Beth, just thinking about our weekend coming up, and I don't know about you, but I'll be going out to dinner and having a couple meals, and I generally overstuff myself, but one of the ones that I wanted to share with you is this notion of a dessert, right? And so this is the dessert tray that came along, and we voted on this one. In this particular case, we actually only gave people 5 votes. So this was a slightly different exercise. And what you'll notice is on the very top, Flan got a large number of votes from the team, but only 5 votes on. What do you think about this approach?
I mean, this is good. You have a clear winner here. Sometimes you won't always have a clear winner. So in this one, it's pretty easy. You could say, okay, Flan got a vote from, looks like I'm seeing every color represented. So maybe that's like, we're done, we're good to go. What would you do if, it got like the same number of votes, but it was just 2 colors? So meaning it was just 2 people putting all of their dots against this one thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point, right? So I might take like flan for sure we want to take off, but maybe we need to have a final bake-off, right? Between flan and maybe, cheese plate and even creme brulee, right? We're going to take all of those and we're going to move them into another round of voting, right? And so this is your second round, right? This is where the stakes are high. The dessert tray's coming around. And in this particular case, right, we're going to ask you to do a vote again. And I'll go ahead and show the results on this, and we'll do a live vote on this one, Beth, on our side. And we'll see, okay, let's see what pops in. And, if it's not surprising, folks, I'm a huge flan fan here. I like to make it. Beth's husband, Alberto, actually showed me a great recipe. So that one's voting to the top for me. But as we do that, our votes, of course, don't look like this. They look very much, in a very distributed way, very clean. And of course, flan is our sort of our top winner. Beth, anything else you would add to this activity or that you would do differently?
No, I like this. And what I like about having that kind of primary round and runoff round is, what if you're someone who voted for something and no one else voted for it and it's just out? Your voice is just now completely lost in the decision. If you take it to that final runoff, then you get another chance to have a say. So everyone now gets to say, okay, of the remaining 3, what's my preference, and maybe get to win.
Yeah. And we have fun with using this all the time as a team. We're always trying to figure out, did my thing win or not? Or did I have enough votes to move to the next round of activity? So dot voting is a lot of fun. It's especially a fun preference-based voting. When would you not use it though?
Yeah, I think a couple places. If you are trying to make a decision on something that requires a pretty deep technical understanding, I don't know that this is a really great tool because it's so preference-based. You don't know if people are evaluating it on technical merits or they're just, oh yeah, AI sounds cool, let's do AI, right? Sure. And then the other one is, if you do want everyone to think about things on the same type of criteria, I would probably use something that's more criteria based, like the matrix that you showed, or a Likert, because then you're ensured that people are thinking about it along the same lines and not just, what do I care about versus what do you care about?
Yeah. And I would say when you have sort of loud personalities in a room, sometimes the dot voting, people might know who that person's idea was and wants to vote for that, versus if you do it on a quantitative evaluation, it's a lot harder to sort of defend the popularity contest that sometimes happens.
That's a great point.
Well, cool. Well, Beth, I look forward to our next Friday adventure together, and enjoy your weekend. Go eat some flan. Tell Alberto I said thanks again for the recipe.
Awesome. Great. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.